Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing my August and September reading wrap up. And guys, I read the most amount of books that I have read in a 2-month span maybe ever in my life. I don't honestly know what happened, but I went on a reading tear the last 2 months. And not only did I read a high quantity of books, but I'm happy to report that I also read some very high quality books. I had some great reads in August and September. And so I don't want to drag this intro out any longer. Let's freaking talk about all of the books that I read in the last 2 months. A couple quick stats. I love starting out this way. In the last 2 months, I did read 12 books, which is a lot for me. If you guys know me, that is a lot. But I actually finished one more book on the last day of July that didn't make it into that wrap up video. So today we're going to be talking about 13 books, but technically I read 12. And then within those 13 books, I read 5 romances, 2 fictions, 2 fantasies, 3 YAs, and 1 short story. So let's start out with that last book that I had in July, and then we'll get into the rest of the wrap up. The last book that I read in July was The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren, and this was on my summer TBR, and so it was the best feeling ever to get to this book. I honestly think this is the experience for a lot of people. Christina Lauren can be very hit or miss for me. They have written some of my absolute favorite books, but they've also written some books that I really don't enjoy. And so when I got to read this book and actually really enjoyed it, it was very exciting to say the least. In this story, we're following our 2 main characters, Anna and Liam, who when they were in college got married out of convenience because if they were married, they gained access to subsidized family housing. So it was much cheaper. They could afford to live at college, but they don't really interact much. They're just roommates. And by the time that their lease comes to an end, they call it, say adios, and then they don't see each other for 3 years when Liam comes knocking at Anna's door and basically says, hey, I told my family that we were married and I need you to come to my family wedding and be my fake wife. And it's so much fun. There is a lot of like extravagant wealth in here. There's fake marriage if that's your thing. And it was really fun. I gave it a 4-star. Honestly, the only thing that knocked it down was the fact that it didn't have that like deep emotional component. And sometimes that's kind of what a book needs to get it to a 5-star for me. But it was really good. I highly recommend. And now we're into the meat of this video. We are entering August, and the first book that I read in the month of August was actually a reread. I reread Beach Read by Emily Henry. I read this book when it came out in 2020, and not only did I fall in love with Emily Henry, but honestly, I just fell in love with reading all over again. That is what this book did for me. But I hadn't read this in literally 5 years. And so as I've read more books and more of Emily Henry's books, I really wanted to reread this and kind of solidify it in my Emily Henry ranking, if that makes sense. And so in this story, we're following our 2 main characters, January and Gus. They are both authors, but they're kind of in a slump. January is a romance author and she no longer believes in love. So that's a problem. And then Gus, he writes literary fiction, but again, he's kind of in this rut, this slump, and they both can't get their books done. They end up being next door neighbors over the summer in this like lake town, and they end up agreeing to switch genres to kind of motivate each other to get a book done. I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars again. It's definitely still my second favorite Emily Henry book. Like I was curious if rereading this book would like propel it to the top, but Happy Place is still my favorite. Nothing will beat Happy Place for me, but I love this book. And if you guys are looking for a very fun, well thought out romance that has a lot of depth, I highly, highly, highly recommend this story. The next book that I picked up in the month of August was The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. And you guys know, the besties who have been watching my channel for a little while know that this is the book that has been sitting on my physical TBR the longest out of any book on my bookshelf. And at the time when I like picked this book for my August TBR, it was actually the last book on my physical TBR. So that was something very exciting that happened in the last few months is I read my entire physical TBR, and this was the book that got me across the finish line. And unfortunately, it seems that I was putting it off for a good reason. I didn't really love this book. This is a literary fiction story that follows the Barnes family, and we take a close look at each of the members in this family. And so Dickie is the father, and at one point he ran a very successful car business. But when we meet these characters, the car business is going under, and everyone is handling this very differently. And so it's very much a deep dive into each of these characters. It's a character study. We're trying to understand coping mechanisms, and we follow each of these characters very closely. And I was just a little bit bored the whole time. And the thing that I really did not like about this book is the ending. Like, I might have given this a 3.5 or a 4, but that ending, I was like, you're kidding me. I read 650 pages for this. And that's just a personal opinion, but it wasn't my favorite. And so, yeah, I do absolutely still recommend this. Like, you'll probably see me recommend it in certain videos, but like only for very specific things, because I can appreciate what it was. It just wasn't maybe written for me, and that's okay. Up next, we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and V.E. Schwab does it again. I love her. I love this author so much. She wrote one of my absolute favorite series, which is the Darker Shade of Magic series, and so when I found out that she had a new release coming out this year, I was so excited, and this was my book club book in August. Yeah. And this is a fantasy vampire story, which is not something I usually read. I love fantasy, but I don't really dabble much in vampires. And so this was really fun because we're following 3 different main female characters, but each of these characters live in different places at different times. So we look at one girl who's in 1500s Spain, another girl who's in 1800s London, and then another girl who's in modern day Boston, like 2019 Boston. They're all connected somehow. We don't really know how they're connected or why they're connected. They're all very different from each other, and you bounce around between their different POVs. I cannot stress enough, guys, it is October. Read this book this month. It is so gothic and spooky and eerie and so perfect for the fall. Like, I really wish that my book club pushed this one back just like 1 month, because I think the vibes would have been so much better in September or October. I ended up giving it a 4-star. And again, the reason that this wasn't quite a 5-star read for me is I did not love one of the POVs in here. I just found one of the girls a bit boring, and I didn't really care for her story. I also think the ending could have been done a bit better. Like, it was a bit rushed, and there were things about it that weren't my favorite. Yeah, this was amazing. Please read it in October. I'm begging you. Really quickly, don't forget to like and subscribe. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. And I think that's it. Let's get back to the books. Next, guys, I'm trying to get into my YA era. I don't usually read a lot of YA books, and there's a reason for that, but I'm trying, okay? And the next book that I picked up is It's Not Summer Without You by Jenny Han. This is the second book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Now, I probably would never have picked these books up if I wasn't getting major FOMO from the TV show. And everybody in my life was watching The Summer I Turned Pretty. My sister was getting emotionally wrecked by it every single Wednesday, and I was like, okay, maybe I do actually need to read the books and watch the show. And so I ended up kind of just binging the entire book series so I could then watch the TV show. But if you're unfamiliar with this series in general, I don't want to talk about the second book because spoilers for the first one. But basically in this series, we're following our main character, Isabel Conklin, who goes by Belly, which that's a whole thing in itself, but she goes by Belly. And every summer, her mom and her brother go to their close family friends' summer house in Cousins Beach. And they're close family friends. It's the Fisher family. There are 2 boys in the Fisher family, Conrad and Jeremiah. And this series, this trilogy, basically follows a love triangle between Belly and the 2 Fisher boys. I will tell you this right now, I am the #1 YA romance hater, and I'm also even bigger love triangle hater. But honestly, in the books, the show was different, but in the books, the love triangle was not as dramatic or like frustrating to me. I enjoyed the second book. I gave it a 3.5. That is the highest rating that I gave in the series. I liked the second book the best. I don't really recommend these books. Like, I think the show is just better, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, then the last book that I read in the month of August was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. This one again was on my TBR for the month of August, and we did it. We slayed. We finished out every single published book in the Magnolia Park series. These are very popular, so I won't get too deep into it, but basically this whole series, there's 5 books released right now, takes place in London, and we're following extremely wealthy socialites in their 20s, basically. And it's just pure drama. And so I really liked this book. I thought that our 2 main characters, Magnolia and BJ, they have come so far from the first book in the Magnolia Park series, and I just really appreciate that. When you can really see character growth, I just absolutely adore that. That said though, I was kind of hoping that since this was the final book in the Magnolia BJ romance, that I would give it like a 4.5 or a 5, kind of like work our way up to it, because the first book was like a 3-star. The next one was a 4, and so I'm thinking like this one's gonna be a 5. But I like Daisy and Christian books, the like other books in this series, so much more. Like, unfortunately, my favorite parts of this book were when we were talking about Daisy and Christian, and I was like, that's not the point. That's really not the point at all. So I was like, okay, this is definitely a solid 4. It was good, but like, I am dying to get my hands on the next Daisy book. Like, I just need it in my hands right now. So yeah, these are really good. If you don't like toxicity and character study vibes, then don't pick those books up. Like, don't even bother. But I personally really love them. All right, now we are moving into September, and this is when my reading rampage really started to pick up. I don't know what it was. I finished my TBR, and then all of a sudden I had this free reign. I could read whatever I want. I could go book shopping, and I went kind of crazy, and I read so many books. The first book that I read in September was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is like one of the OG BookTok, booktube viral books. And honestly, the reason that I didn't pick this up earlier is because I had heard from a lot of different people that this is extremely similar to Love in Other Words. Let me grab it. This book, Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, same author as The Paradise Problem, who I talked about at the beginning of this video. And this book is like one of my favorite books of all time. I have absolutely destroyed it. There are so many tears in this book. And so I was like, I don't really want to read a book that's just like this, but it had been enough time that I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give it a chance and see what I think. And honestly, everybody was absolutely right. This is Love in Other Words copy paste, but we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it anyway. In Every Summer After, we have our main character, Persephone, and her family would go to their lake house every single summer. And when they were at this lake house, she fell in love with the boy living next door. His name is Sam, and it's really, really cute. But then something happens, a falling out, we don't know what. And 10 years later, they are reconnecting, and we kind of go back and forth from the past timeline to the present timeline as they are falling in love now and falling in love as kids. And we try to unravel like what had happened and what broke them up in the first place. And I can't even lie to you. Maybe I should have known this because I love Love in Other Words so much. I devoured this book. Like, I was absolutely loving it for the first 90% of it. I think I honestly would give this book a 5-star if I could just rate the first 80 to 90% of it. Like, I was eating it up. It has every single trope in it that I love, and it was kind of just like Love in Other Words in a different font, and it wasn't bothering me as much as I thought it would. However, I'm realizing this right now. All these books, their endings are what's killing it for me. The ending of this book, oh my God, why is nobody talking about this? Like, I'm not gonna say what happened. I don't want any spoilers at all here. This is a safe space. But if you've read this book and you know how this ends, oh my God, why is not everyone causing a hissy fit online? I'm like, this book was so good until it wasn't. And I'm not gonna like lean into it too much, but like, I hated the ending, like bleach my eyeballs. Oh my goodness, like I'm getting heated. I hated the ending of this book. And so I was like really at war with myself about how to rate it. And so I'm like, I would give 5 stars to most of it and literally a 1 to the end of it. So I landed on a 4 because I did love most of this book, and I am planning on reading the next book in this series, One Golden Summer, but it is fall, and I'm feeling a little bit conflicted about when to pick this book up. But yeah, that was this book. Overall, really good. Disappointed by the end. Then I picked up We'll Always Have Summer, which is book number 3 in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I'm not going to get into it because, again, third book, spoilers, but I rated this one a 3. I did like the second book more, as I said before. And guys, this is so bad. Maybe I'm just too critical about endings, but in this ending, like, it just happened so fast. Like, dare I say, everything that we wanted to happen was just the epilogue. Something like that. Like, I was like, this is crazy that this is the ending. And so, yeah, it was good. Really not notable. I will never think about it again. And I will always and maybe never forget the TV show. Like, it just plays on repeat in my mind. And I'm good with it. I let it happen. The next book that I picked up in the month of September was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. I know I talked about this a little bit in my most recent TBR video, but I am working my way through this series for the second time. I have not picked these books up since I was literally like 10 years old, and these changed my brain chemistry. I am a changed person because I read this book series in like elementary and middle school, and I just thought it would be so fun to read these this fall season, and they're so much fun. Everyone I know like has at least heard of the Percy Jackson series, but basically you are following demigods, which basically means they are the children of Greek gods. They're like half god, half human or whatever. And they go to a summer camp called Camp Half-Blood where they learn to train and fight monsters and all of this really fun and exciting stuff. And so we follow our 3 main characters, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, as they go on a series of adventures. I just had so much fun with this book. I feel like as we make our way further into the series, I remember less and less. Like right now, as I'm filming this video, I'm actually in the middle of The Titan's Curse, which is book 3. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't remember any of this. Like literally nothing is in my brain. Where I did remember parts of this book and a good amount of the first book in the series. I don't know if it's like worth a read if you've never read them before and you're an adult, because they do feel very youthful to me, but like that doesn't bother me right now because of the nostalgia that I'm getting from them. The next book that I picked up was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young, and this is a book that not only have I seen all over the internet, but it's also one that I have had quite a few of you guys recommend to me, and so I really wanted to prioritize this and pick it up. And I loved this book. Who was letting me sleep on Hannah Bonham Young? I loved it. She is so talented. Like I just loved her writing and the storytelling and everything about this book. We are following our female main character, Win, which is short for Winifred. We start out with her at her best friend's Halloween party, which was also so fun because we're like getting into October now. And so she ends up having this like amazing one night stand at her best friend's Halloween party. And a few weeks later, she finds out that she is pregnant. So she got pregnant from this one night stand. So she contacts Beau, the guy who she hooked up with, and they kind of together enter a friendship circling around the child that they are going to have. I know that there's a lot of mixed opinions on accidental pregnancy trope out there, but this book did it so incredibly well. And I do feel like part of it is because the accidental pregnancy happens right at the beginning, and that's kind of what the romance is built around. Like they learn a lot about themselves and a lot about each other through the fact that they're going to have a kid together. I really loved Win, but even more than Win, I loved Beau, the male main character in this book. Like he was just the sweetest, kindest, most perfect bookman I think ever to exist. Like I just loved him. A little to the point where it was like a little unrealistic. Like I was like, I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but I was like, I don't know if there's any person, not just man, but like human being on the planet who would do things so kindly and so selflessly for anybody else. But you know, maybe that's just me and I'm being negative and not optimistic, but he set the bar. All right. I loved him. And there was also really amazing disability representation in here with both of our main characters, which I loved, and I'd never read a story like that. The only reason that this didn't get a full 5-star from me, I did give it a 4, is because it was just almost a little bit too sugar sweet and perfect for me. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of depth, a lot of emotional intimacy, like everything that I love was here. I just felt like I needed a little bit more turmoil or like a little bit more of a challenge in their relationship to like fully believe that it was real, if that makes sense. Like they were able to very, very easily work out any issues that came up. And I feel like with a child, especially, the issues that come up are pretty intense. And so, yeah, I don't know. That kind of thing was kind of the only thing that really got to me. But I loved this, and I cannot wait to read more books by Hannah Bonham Young because she killed it. This was so good. So good. I'm smiling just thinking about the book I'm talking about next because this was easily my favorite book that I have read in the last 2 months, but also one of my favorite books of the whole entire year. It's also my first 5-star of this video that's a new 5-star, that's not a reread. And that book is none other than Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins. Read this woman does it again. Who lets her write books this good? Oh my God. Like what the heck? In all seriousness, this book is following our main character, Joan Goodwin, who for most of her career is a physics and astronomy professor at Rice University in Texas. However, she ends up getting the opportunity to become an astronaut for NASA. And we watch her as she becomes an astronaut, as she trains, as she meets all of the other people in her class, and ultimately like gets to go to space and stuff like that. We look at Joan and her relationships, particularly her relationship with another astronaut. And oh my God, like the characters in this book, you can't help but love them. Like they are just the kindest, most realistic feeling people ever. Like the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid was able to flesh out each of the individual characters, on top of the fact that she was being very, what felt like to me, specific about the scientific components of this book. Like it was just so well researched. Like she's talking about the spacecraft and protocol at NASA. And like, again, these aren't things that I know about, but it just felt so well researched. And like these characters were really perfectly made for the situation. I loved it. And something else that I should mention is right at the beginning of the book, you know that some kind of tragedy happens. And so we're kind of bouncing back and forth between this present day tragedy that people are dealing with and, you know, going back and following Joan as she's like getting to this point. I will say I read this book partially on my Kindle from the library, and also I listened to the audiobook, and I ended up loving the audiobook so much more than reading it. Part of it is probably the Queen voice actress who does all of TJR's books. I'm forgetting her name right now. I'll put it on the screen. She's fantastic. And so I kind of just eventually abandoned reading it physically because I loved the audiobook so much. Like it just spoke to my heart and my soul. And I remember when I was finishing this book, I was working on like a fall puzzle that I had laid out in my dining room. Thank God I was home alone because I literally was just bawling at I was doing this puzzle to the point where like I couldn't put the pieces in because like I could not see anything. And it was so good. It was so good. Books that make me cry just have a special place in my heart. I just absolutely loved this book. And I'm like thinking like, was it my favorite book of the year? Is it in the top 3? Like, I don't know, but I just loved it. And if you're going to take anything away from this video, it would be to go read this book like yesterday. We're getting there, guys. I know this is kind of a longer video than usual, but the next book that I picked up was actually a short story. And that short story is The Situationship by Abby Jimenez. And when I like picked this book in my TBR, I might have actually picked this in my October TBR. I don't remember. I picked it very recently and then I just like immediately read it after I filmed that TBR video. I thought it was like a novella. I thought it was a lot longer than it was, but this is literally just like a short story that goes in the Part of Your World trilogy. It won't make any sense to you if you haven't read the Part of Your World trilogy by Abby Jimenez, but yeah, it's really cute. It's really sweet. We follow Maddie and Doug, who are two like peripheral characters, like side characters in this trilogy, and we kind of get to see like a little glimpse into them falling in love, which is really cute and really sweet. Again, it was so short to the point where I'm like, I shouldn't even consider it a book, but I will say it did make me want to reread the Part of Your World trilogy because I just love those books so much. So yeah, it was good. If you're reading that trilogy, I recommend just like picking this book up at the end, like when you finish all the books, because it's really cute. Okay, last book of the video, and then we're out of here. And that book is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This book, guys, has been on my radar for so long. I think it might also be on my 2025 TBR. I should probably check that. I haven't looked at that in a couple months. But this is a gothic fantasy novel that I've just seen so many people talk about it, and for one reason or another, I just had not picked it up. And then my book club ended up voting for it for this month. My book club is actually meeting tonight as I'm filming this, which is lovely. This was really fun. Honestly, when I picked this book up, I realized how much I've been itching for a good fantasy book. I feel like after I finished Throne of Glass, I've been in kind of a fantasy rut. Like, I don't know, no fantasies have quite been hitting like Throne of Glass did, but that aside, this kind of scratched that itch in my brain a bit. And in this story, we're following our main character, Elspeth Spindle, and she has this like monster trapped in her mind. So she can like hear his thoughts. They can like talk to each other in her brain. Not going to tell you why or how that happened because you find out later in the book, but like key point, she has a monster trapped inside her brain. Okay. And we are looking again at this very like gothic fantasy feeling town. She lives in the city of Blunder, and Blunder is being slowly overtaken by this mist. And if you get caught in the mist, you can catch this infection, and the infection gives you magic. And guess what? Having magic in the town of Blunder is illegal. And so if you get sick, you die because they kill you. This is all on the back of the book. No spoilers at all. We watch Elspeth as she basically attempts to help a group of rebels get rid of the mist and this infection. And the way that you do that is by collecting magical cards. There's like a deck of 12 cards, each of which have different magical powers. And if you collect them all, then you can get rid of the mist and the magic. And people have been trying to do this for a long time, but they just can't for one reason or another. I know that felt like a lot. And again, that's literally like the first little chunk of the book. The magic system was really unique. I really enjoyed this book, and we end on quite a cliffhanger. And so literally like 5 minutes later, I downloaded Two Twisted Crowns, which was the next book in the series. And so I'm also currently reading that right now. I'm always in the middle of like 3 books at once. And so yeah, this was really good. I loved being in a fantasy world again. The only thing that I like didn't love about it, there were a couple things, but like the main thing is that there is like a pretty prevalent romance in this book. Like I would go as far as to say that this is romantic-y, but like I didn't really feel the romance. Like anytime there was like feelings brewing between the love interest and Elspeth, I was kind of like, okay guys, can we get back to like the magical cards in the mist please? Because that's like what had my own personal attention. So yeah, I just wasn't like as invested as I have been in other books and other fantasy stories. That said, it's rare that I finish a book and immediately pick up the second book in the series, which is exactly what I did. And so yeah, I definitely enjoyed this book. I'm very happy to be reading the second book. And again, it's like hitting all of these fall spooky vibes that I'm looking for right now. And so it's kind of perfect. Like I really can't complain. Okay guys, that was my August and September reading wrap up. I, again, cannot believe how many books I read. And also we had a lot of like 4-star ratings and 5s, like rereads and new. Like this just doesn't happen to me very often. I'm very picky and particular about my books and my book ratings, and I'm also a very slow reader. So this just all around was a complete anomaly the last 2 months. But yeah, I think that's it from me. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point in the video. And if you made it all the way here, comment down below the lemon emoji. I'm looking at my lemon poster right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you guys can get notified for the next video that I post. And I think that's it from me. I hope you guys are having the best day and the best reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!